He unfolded it quickly. Back door, back alley, midnight. The urgency in the message sent a chill down Jameson's spine. He needed to know more. But how? If his own employees couldn't protect him, he was in trouble. Outside, the city lights blurred together in a meaningless streak. All the expensive suits and bodyguards couldn't hide the fear that pulsed in his veins. Was someone after him? Had his secret charity work exposed him? Or was it something from his past, something he thought he had buried long ago? Each block he walked felt like a journey into the unknown, each face in the crowd seeming both familiar and threatening. He ended up in a place he recognized but never visited, an old warehouse district. Half of him wanted to turn back, to retreat to the safety of his mansion where armed guards patrolled the perimeter. But he had to know the truth. The weathered brick walls loomed around him, broken windows like vacant eyes staring into his soul. The air hung heavy with the scent of stale waste and decay, a stark contrast to the perfume and polished wood of the gilded steer. He stood in front of the large metal door. Seconds ticked by, each one echoing the thump of his heart. The doorknob was cold under his touch. He took a deep breath and pushed it open. Inside, shadows danced on the grimy floor. Dust motes swirled in the faint light, filtering through cracks in the boarded windows. He walked further in, cautious steps breaking the silence, the sound swallowed by the cavernous space. And then he saw her. The waitress from the restaurant was sitting on a low wall, leaning against a stack of crates. She looked relieved to see him, but her usual softness was replaced by a grim determination. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "I didn't know how to reach you, who to call. I had to think of something." She hesitated. "How did you get in here?" "I have my ways," she replied cryptically, pushing off the wall. "Look, Mr. Blackwood, I want to explain everything, but I need you to stay with me. Not just for your own safety, but because you can help." Jameson felt a surge of protectiveness towards this young woman. Despite her trembling hands and anxious eyes, she had shown courage, loyalty, and a strong will. It was a breath of fresh air in the stuffy world he inhabited. "Okay," he said softly, his gruffness fading away. "What do we need to do?" She led him deeper into the warehouse, the silence pressing in on them, broken only by the distant sounds of the city. They stopped in front of a closed steel door, its surface scratched and dented. "This is it," she whispered, turning to him. "And this is where you came in." Her voice broke. She took a deep breath. "Mr. Blackwood, I don't know if I can do this. I'm scared." "Hey," he said, reaching out to gently touch her arm. The contact sent a jolt through him. Her skin was cold. "Listen to me. You did the right thing by coming here. I promise you, whatever happens, you will be okay. And thank you for trying to help me." Her eyes widened. "Help you? What? How?" He smiled sadly. "By reminding me what it's like to live without all the cameras and lies." He paused. "In a world where everyone asks for something, you gave me an honest service. You reminded me what humanity feels like. For that, I am grateful." He leaned closer. "Now please go. Stay safe." But she shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "No, I can't leave you here. Please let me stay." He cupped her face gently, wiping away her tears. "This is my fight. I need to finish it, but you can finish school, travel, have a life." Her lower lip trembled. "But promise me you will take care of yourself." She looked at him, her eyes pleading. "I promise." He kissed her forehead, the warmth of her body lingering against his after she stepped back. The metallic tang of blood filled his mouth. It was his own. He touched his chest, blood soaked through his fingers. With a gasp, he crumpled to the floor, the darkness closing in fast. He vaguely heard her scream his name, her panicked footsteps, but they were distant. Then there was only blackness. A car screeched to a halt outside the warehouse. A tall, imposing man in a black suit hurried out, his face etched with concern. He rushed to Jameson's side, checking his pulse. "Sir, you're still alive. Come on, hang on." He cradled Jameson's head in his lap. "It's all right. Help is here now." He looked up. "Get inside. Call 911. We need an ambulance now." As they struggled to get Jameson into the car, another man emerged from the shadows. His eyes were sharp and calculating. "What happened? Is he dead?" "Not yet," the first man said, his voice tight with urgency. "But it doesn't look good. Get in. We need to get him to the hospital fast." They bundled Jameson into the car, the engine roaring to life as they sped away from the warehouse. Inside the hospital, the sterile white light felt harsh against Jameson's closed eyelids. Tubes and wires snaked around him, their beeps and whirs forming a haunting melody. The doctor, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, stood beside his bed. "I'm sorry, Mr. Blackwood," she said softly. "He didn't make it." His mother, her face ashen, sank into a chair nearby. His sister, tears streaming down her face, clutched his father's arm. He was surrounded by family, but he couldn't remember any of them being this close. Maybe it was the shock of the attack, or maybe, just maybe, it was the genuine affection the staff at the restaurant and this mysterious girl had shown him. These faces swam into focus, their emotions a mirror to his own. He knew he should feel anger, grief, or sadness, but instead, a strange sense of calm washed over him. Life wasn't fair, but sometimes death could bring unexpected clarity. He thought of the girl in the warehouse, her bravery resonating within him. Whoever had attacked him had taken a part of her innocence, but they hadn't broken her spirit. He hoped, with all his heart, that she would find a way to move forward. The last thing he remembered was the taste of blood and the warehouse door opening. Now he was here, facing the final curtain call. Fear had been his constant companion in life, always lurking, always demanding attention. But now, as death's shadow loomed, it was the only emotion he no longer felt. In its place was an unexpected calm. He had lived a life dictated by ambition, power, and wealth. Perhaps his story was meant to end here, not in the boardroom or the penthouse, but in a dingy warehouse, shot by an unknown assailant. He closed his eyes, ready to let go. But as the darkness threatened to swallow him, he heard her voice. "No, Mr. Blackwood, please stay with me." And then the door burst open, flooding the room with light and hope. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm so glad you're awake. The doctor said you might be a bit confused. Do you remember what happened?" But he didn't answer. Instead, he searched for the girl, his gaze sweeping the room until he saw her standing by the bed, her eyes wide with worry. "You're awake," she whispered, rushing to his side. "Oh, thank God. I was so worried you wouldn't make it." He reached out, wanting to touch her, but his hand fell short. She was gone. Disoriented, he looked around. Where had she gone? Why was he in a hospital bed? And why was he wrapped in unfamiliar bandages? Then it hit him. The warehouse, the attack, the girl. "Where is she?" he croaked, his voice hoarse from disuse. "Who?" The doctor frowned, looking at the nurse. "We haven't had any visitors since Mr. Blackwood was brought in, except for his family." His mother, he noticed, was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. His sister was staring at him, her face pale. "Wait," he whispered, struggling to sit up. "You haven't seen a young woman here? Someone who works at my restaurant? Someone who looks like this?" He described her appearance, hoping against hope that they might have seen her. His family exchanged uneasy glances, their eyes filled with a strange mix of sympathy and guilt. "Jameson," his father began, his voice grave, "there are some things you need to know. Things about your mother, your sister, about your whole life." He hesitated, then pressed on. "Everything you believed, everything you were told, it's a lie." Jameson's heart pounded against his ribs, a frantic tattoo against his expensive suit. His eyes, sharp and gray as a winter sky, scanned the bustling restaurant, searching for the source of the danger he instinctively sensed. A slight nod from a man in a dark corner was his only response. Slipping the note into his pocket, Jameson feigned a sip of his wine, his gaze flickering to the exit. 5 minutes stretched into an eternity. Then, heart hammering, he stood up, excusing himself to the restroom. The hallway was dim, the air thick with the smell of stale waste. Staff-only doors lined the way, each one a potential hiding place. Suddenly a waitress materialized from one of the doors, her face ashen. "Follow me," she whispered, her voice tight with urgency. "But who are you? What's happening?" Jameson demanded, his voice betraying his facade of calm. "No time," she hissed, pulling him through the service corridor. "I heard something. They were talking about a Mr. Blackwood." "I think they want him dead," she said, pushing open a door at the end of the hall. Jameson froze. His eyes widened in disbelief. Could someone really be after him? Had his business dealings finally caught up with him? His mind raced, trying to piece together any recent threats or enemies. But nothing came to mind. He had never been one to make nice. In the ruthless game of high finance, he had clawed his way to the top, leaving a trail of broken deals and shattered careers in his wake. The waitress stood hesitantly by the door, not daring to enter without him. "Go on," she urged, her voice barely a whisper. "Please hurry." He took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead. As he stepped out into the narrow alley, adrenaline surged through him, his senses on high alert. Spotting a security guard, he dashed across the parking lot, weaving between parked cars, his heart pounding in his chest. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed behind him. Turning, he saw two men emerge from the restaurant, their faces grim and determined. Fear turned to anger. Someone had set him up, used him, and he vowed to find out who and why. Rounding the corner, he found himself in a maze of dark alleys and closed shops. He didn't know this part of town well, but he was a fast runner, and he dared them to try and catch him. Panting, he glanced over his shoulder. The men were gaining on him. Adrenaline pumping, he picked up the pace. Then he saw it. A ray of light at the end of the tunnel, a sliver of hope in his desperate flight. Bursting onto a busy street, he paused, listening. The sound of sirens and shouts grew louder. He was almost there. Sprinting through the park, he felt a searing pain in his side. Blood trickled down his arm, blurring his vision. But he didn't dare slow down. He could hear the men close behind him, their voices echoing in the darkness. Suddenly, a woman's voice cut through the night. "Stop running, please. It's not worth it." Astonished, he skidded to a halt. There in front of him stood the woman from the restaurant, her face pale in the moonlight. He stared at her, torn between relief and suspicion. "Who are you?" he gasped, his voice hoarse with exertion. She took a step closer, her eyes shining with determination. "You don't know me, but I know you, Mr. Blackwood. I know what you're capable of, and I believe there's still good in you." Her words echoed in his ears long after she had disappeared into the shadows. He was safe, for now at least, but the danger was far from over. He knew that whoever had sent those men after him wouldn't hesitate to finish the job, but he also knew that he couldn't keep running. He had to fight back. And so began his perilous journey of discovery, a journey that would lead him to the darkest corners of his past and force him to confront the truth about himself.